Whenever we were trying to put stuff together, like when we went to when Atlanta Sevens was happening, obviously the last couple of years, I remember me and then occasionally, one of my staff, they would we would go there and we'd literally be probably about the only, media people that were at Atlanta Sevens, and it really threw me off because when I got there, I was like, this play is really high quality. Like, I'm pretty confident there's a strong 85% of the guys, maybe even within the national level, that might not be able to compete in this because they are so fast and strong. Talking to the women from New Zealand and US and France and England, and it's just like you see the quality, so I don't feel like there's that as an issue, but it always seems like there's something just missing. It's just that little bit that always seems to be missing, and it doesn't make sense. It never made sense to me.
What do you mean? What was missing?
Well, that's exactly it. It was you have like, all right. Whenever we talk about, maybe say when people bring up professional rugby, all right. So usually what I've always found when people bring up professional rugby, they'll say, well, one, we get paid players, so then we can get higher quality of play, which isn't necessarily always accurate. The other part is that you get proper venue. Well, when it came to Atlanta Sevens, Kennesaw State was a gorgeous venue. Like, for what it's worth, it's a really gorgeous soccer stadium that they have there. Atlanta, while I don't necessarily agree that it's the best sports town in the world, but again, the Louisiana in me is slightly petty towards that place. I think that it's a metropolitan city that is a top market. So it wasn't a matter of population. And then the other part has always been quality. Well, it's a national side. You know that for the most part, if you're going to say cream of the crop, the top four teams, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and England, you'll always be sure that they're going to bring their best. Whether it's a Portia Woodman, whether it's Charlotte Castlelick, whether it's any of them, you know they're going to be bringing their best. So you know you're going to get good play. But yet, every time we would go, it would be a very paisley response.
Oh, so what's missing in terms of making that event a success?
Exactly. It was what seems to be not catching because, for what it's worth, you have the ingredients there for success.
Yeah, I think well, I mean, the USA Sevens is like a private company, so they're not, they have different, um, they have more at their disposal, to promote an event.
Hmm.
And I think also, you know, people have to, they would have to like choose basically between Las Vegas and Atlanta. And, it would have taken a big response from the women's community to be like, support this event. We might lose it. And, USA Sevens is a spectacle. It's hard to say no to it sometimes, if you had to pick.
Between the two,
Yeah.
because they're usually about a month and a half between themselves. One opinion that I had with one of my friends is, was the nature of accountability. We were talking about it and we were asking, does the rugby community, while the rugby community definitely always wants growth, obviously, but there's a certain level that you can only get to before you have to start creating accountability. From the club level, the college level, even at the high school and under, the U19 and under level, we always talk about the perception that is being created. Is there a business aspect that you're providing to your club teams? So whether it's, hey, we are going to sell XYZ, or we are going to charge ABC, things that would naturally create an inclination that says we want to take it up one. And we felt that, there is this fear of accountability that might be present in the rugby community, men and women. Do you have any sense, or do you think that, maybe it's just there's just that natural organic, this is part of the natural organic rise that, you know where we're at right now is just kind of part of that process?
I mean, do you mean in relation to the former Atlanta Sevens?
Oh no, no,
Or
no. This is just disconnecting from Atlanta Sevens. I'm sorry. I'm talking in terms of where we're talking in rugby in general. Like we're talking club rugby, college rugby, youth rugby, and then what you can find as examples. I like that you have cats too. I got two of them as well.
sorry, must be the interview.
Yep, yep. I got these two that have been trying to jump in. I'm like slowly patting them away each time. Um, but what I'm saying is that what you see in USA Sevens for me, and consider me a bit of a rugby libertarian in this, because it's a private organization, and like you said, it has a little bit more room to be able to maneuver. It has done the steps that it needs to create what would be illicit value. Essentially entertainment value. It is, they charge, there's exclusivity, there is, at least for what it's worth, some emotional rise that goes to it. It is purposed where, there's a reason that people go and they want to continue to go to it each time. And then obviously when you get there, it's a party, it's play, whatever the rest of it that you find for rugby. So for me, I look at that and I say, why are you not replicating that across the board? Even Atlanta Sevens, even though it didn't have the same turnout, it still replicates that same kind of, or at least attempts to replicate to some extent that same kind of element. But whenever it comes to the lower ends of rugby, where we are constantly harping on why we need to be better and why we need to get more, and you're starting to push amateurism, the steps that are necessary to take it to the next level don't seem to be there. And it's almost a wonder of, as much as you say you want to be more, is there a fear of what that more can be?
I mean, maybe. Well, to the USA Sevens, like that is their, with the exception, there's the CRC and Varsity Cup or whatever else they do. Like that's their full-time job all year round, and their number one goal is, to make money and be able to do it the next year. And they do all these other things, like they adopt a country to get into, they do a lot of other things, but their goal is they need to turn a profit so they can do it again next year. Whereas, USA Rugby has a lot of different goals, or, they have a lot of different objectives. But I mean, if you were to take that entity and tell them, okay, your one goal is to sell out all the USA Eagle tests. They probably do a really good job, but they've just got. I don't think it's necessarily fair, to take a private entity and their singular goal and try to overlay that on top of an NGO. They're kind of two different things.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense. Again, this is the rugby libertarian that comes out of me, where I see these aspects, and it always comes back whenever we have argument, and when people have arguments, and I know you see them on Facebook and Twitter and maybe not so much Instagram, but you'll see them pop up from time to time, and it always comes back to is what is USA Rugby doing to insert whatever random problem someone wants to have. But for me, it's always been, well, as a club, and again, now I'm talking at the lower levels, not the national levels. As a club, you have an illicit responsibility to show value to your club. So if you're saying, oh man, we want to be able to travel more, we want to have a little bit more autonomy over what our schedule is, why can't this and this happen? Well, for me, I say, well, what are you doing to make your club and your product, essentially what your play is, better for more people to come in? Well, if you want more people who are more youth rugby people, well, why are you not trying to sell tickets to come to your event where you can mess with the values of it and say, hey, this means this, and now people have a actual, real, tangible, value that goes to your play on the field. So hey, we can bring in more kids. We can travel places. We can do extra. Same thing goes with college. What people always say, oh, why are we not able to connect with the university? The university doesn't want to give us respect. Well, what are you doing to create a value that the university has to actually see? It's almost like the mission statement always seems to be, well, if I play a lot, people will come. It's the field of dreams effect. Like if you play it, they will come, and it's like I don't know if that's necessarily true. For you, seeing it from all the levels, because you have to follow all the levels of rugby. Do you feel, and that's why I go back to accountability. Do you feel like there might be an illicit fear within the rugby community that if you take this next step, that maybe the changes might not be what they want. There might be a fear of losing that special little core entity that makes up rugby.
Um, I think maybe if you're talking about, when you were on that cusp of talking about, say, like varsity colleges and club colleges, there was a little bit of that, oh, we don't want to lose that social edge to, to the team. But I think generally speaking, when it gets to that point where, a college is trying to afford that trip to nationals, now they have to fundraise like crazy, super stressful, that is kind of more impressive than the fear of taking the next step. Like I think what a lot of clubs and teams need, they just need someone with some perspective, someone who's older, someone who can look 5-10 years down the road and say, we need to set up this, endowment. We need to think beyond our next championship fundraiser, and so I don't think it's some kind of fear that is, keep like holding clubs back or holding teams back from developing and taking the next step. It's just a layer of leadership that won't cycle out in 4 years, or like who didn't just become president for their senior year. And I think, there are a lot of, leagues and teams that are lacking another level of management that could, they could provide that insight. And so I don't really think it's a fear holding people back.
I think that makes sense. Kind of last question. Obviously, like I said, you, in my opinion, you are probably one of the premier writers that are here in the country when it comes to rugby, and probably one of the more knowledgeable ones that are here. I think what you do is amazing. What is the next step? What is that goal? What is the goal that you are aiming for next? That says, all right, this is the marker that we need to achieve here for the Rugby Breakdown, for Jackie Finlan, for what we need to do with women's rugby. Like, what is that next marker for you?
The one thing I would really love to have is a cadre of writers, female writers who, because as we were talking earlier about workload, you do your best, but people who are like in their regions, who know what's going on, who have a voice and can really speak intelligently about what's happening in and around their community. I would love to manage a staff of female writers who could contribute and just really build this thing into, instead of just being my voice, because how boring does that get? Have a lot of different female voices talking about their sport in their region, and just, further connecting, the community out there to be educated and grow.